Hello, welcome to this week's Wild Spirits News. I'm Sibylla and today I'll tell you 2 ways to find money for your passion. When I ask people why they don't prioritize their passions more, there are 2 reasons that I hear more often than any others. And the first is I don't have the time. The second is I just don't have enough money. And indeed, passions can actually cost money. Depending on what your passion is, you might have to buy supplies, you might have to pay for tuition, there might even be travel. Again, this depends on your passion. And in a very real sense, time is money, because if you sell your time for money in terms of a job, you will also have less time for your passion, and that also limits the money that you can spend on your passion. So your mission today is to learn 2 ways to find money for your passion. Task number 1 is your true priorities. There's a reason why I always talk about priority when I talk about passions, because simply making more time for your passion or multiple passions, while commendable, is not going to cause the same transformation that actually prioritizing it does. And when you prioritize, when you truly prioritize your passion, there are certain things that shift in your life. One of the things that shift is your finances, and that's because finances depend a lot on priorities. I'll show you what I mean by inviting you to look at your spendings for the last month. So draw up your accounts, your account statement, your credit card, whatever you have. And if that is not possible, or if that doesn't show your expenses, your expenditure well enough, then I invite you going forward to take the next month, the coming month, to write down all the money that you spent. It's supremely enlightening. It's really worth the effort. You only have to do it for 1 month. And then see where the biggest chunks of money go. That's your priorities, because your priorities, remember how I always say money is energy. And where you put your energy, where you put your money is where your energy and your focus goes. So your biggest expenditure equal the priorities in your life. And I'm going to make an educated guess that some of the chunks of your money, some of your priorities, money-wise, will be, one big chunk will be the living costs, like rent, mortgage, food, and so forth. There'll likely be distractions, what I call distractions, so the likes of a TV license or a Netflix subscription. Subscriptions in general, magazines and all the rest, anything you pay money for that you subscribe to. Impulse purchases, consumer goods, stuff like that. Hopefully there'll be some investments. And there should also be money for passions. Now, if you wish to increase the money for the passions, you need to cut down something else. And it might be a bit difficult in the short term to change things like the rent that you're paying. Obviously, this is something that you should keep in mind. If you're living in an expensive area, maybe consider moving to a cheaper place. But this is obviously something that is more the mid or long term. Now, in the short term, the easiest way to free up money is to cut down on the distractions. So the impulse purchases, the clothes you buy, the subscriptions, that is where you can make cuts. And I always say I don't like frugality. I like abundance. I like, the pleasure of the money, of the finances. But this is not going to feel like frugality or like penny pinching, because you are funneling this money directly into your passions, which is what you really want to do and what actually lights you up. And you'll find that the more time and energy and money you spend on your passion, the more you focus on your passions, the less you need those distractions, the less you'll want to binge watch Netflix series. Try it out. And that brings me to task number 2, which is allocate money for your passion. If you don't work with budgets yet, I recommend you get going. If you need any help with this, reach out to me and ask me, and I'm happy to help. And if you would like a thorough rework of your finances, first of all, the nuts and bolts, and also the whole mindset about it, the abundance rather than always scarcity and always being broke. If you happen to be sick of that, consider the Wild Money program. I'll put the link in the description below that you can get more information. So basically, now that you know your spendings, look at these chunks, your expenses that you've just written down, and now try to figure out what percentage of your net income every month you spend on, for example, rent, groceries, your passions, gifts, all these kinds of things, savings and investments, and so forth. So this should be percentages, because that is easier to handle once you get a pay rise. If you ever get a pay rise, Do you know how they tend to evaporate, and then 2 months later it doesn't even feel like you were earning more money? A pay rise will immediately, the extra money will immediately be allocated according to the same percentages. So everything goes up, your living costs and your expenditure, but also your passions money, or the money for gifts and the savings. So percentages are very flexible, which is why I always recommend doing these budgets in percentages. Now, it depends on your situation, and all this exercise obviously depends on your situation. Now, if you're in dire straits right now, if you've just lost your job or something happened, then obviously this is an exercise for the future going forward when things are on an even keel again, because you need some wiggle room for that, obviously. So once you've done that, you should look to, my suggestion would be 5 to 10% should be the budget for passions, because 5 to 10% makes it a big enough chunk to be a priority. That is a priority. This is not just $20 a month or something. 5 to 10% is a priority. And that should be your passions budget. Something strange happens when you allocate money to something. It becomes important. It's once again about this focus, about this energy. It becomes important. It immediately has a higher value in your life. And this is what you want. You want to prioritize your passion. That brings me to task number 3, which is, as usual, let me know. And this time I'm really, really curious how you're handling your money. Are you already working with budgets? How do you handle this? Would you like to start? And what I was also wanted to say is, if you have any trouble with this, any questions about it, reach out to me, reply to the email that you got the link to the video with, and tell me the question. And we can even, I'll answer your email, obviously. We can even hop on Skype and have a chat, or on Zoom. I'm always there for my wild spirits. As long as I'm not fully booked out, I will always take time for my wild spirits. And if you're not part of the wild spirits community yet, which means you haven't got the link to this video in an email that you could reply to, then you should definitely join us. Go to wildspiritscoaching.com and fill in that little form there. That gets you 1 email per week. It's 100% spam free. You'll get lots of extra information and articles. You get recommendations of books and other resources, and sometimes you get exclusive offers that are only for my subscribers that nobody else ever gets to see. So go to wildspiritscoaching.com and sign up, or you could Google Wild Spirits Coaching. That'll get you to the website as well. Thank you for watching.